Tim, here to talk about the two mystery books I read recently. The Man Who Died Twice and Moonflower Murders. So stay tuned for those. So it is fall, moving towards winter, and that is cozy season. And for me, that means usually starting to read more mystery novels, cozy mysteries, old-fashioned mysteries. I am a big Hercule Poirot fan. Obviously, Sherlock Holmes was one of my first favorites growing up. So I tend towards that kind of thing at this time of year in particular. And the couple of mysteries I've read recently were The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman. I don't know how he says his name. It is the second in the Thursday Murder Club series. And Moonflower Murders by Anthony Horowitz, which is the second Sue Ryeland mysteries. I don't know if there's a name for those, but anyway, we'll start with The Man Who Died Twice. So I really loved the Thursday Murder Club. I read it earlier this year. There's a video that I will link somewhere if you want to see me talk about it, but I was very fond of that book. It was a fast read. I loved the characters and everything. In The Man Who Died Twice, we are back at this. The setting is like a retirement type village in England, a small town, idyllic setting, and these four pensioners have kind of formed a club to solve cold case murders. They get their hands on old case files and things. But in this the second book, there is a current issue where one of the pensioners, her name is Elizabeth, she used to work for MI6, I think, and one of her ex-husbands, who is also an agent and is still also an agent because he's like 10 years younger than her and still working, comes to her for help because he's in trouble with basically the mafia. Like it's convoluted, but that's what it boils down to. And so the team is rallying to find missing diamonds, protect the ex-husband and his handler Poppy, who is young and naive. And in the second plot, one of the other pensioners, Ibrahim, he is kind of the victim of some, young 20-something kids who basically, beat him and steal his phone when he's in town, and he kind of becomes a recluse, not wanting to leave his flat, as it were. Because of that, he was always a cautious man, and now, having gone out and been the victim of a crime, has taught him basically that he was right to stay in and be cautious, and has kind of undone a lot of his slowly coming out of his shell stuff. And so that they as per the first book, we managed to dovetail a number of these stories into a final resolution. And it was good. It was still a page turner. I picked it up. I read it pretty quickly. I still enjoy all these characters. I didn't enjoy the story as much. I mean, I think I still gave it 4 stars, but the first book I gave 5 stars. This one I wasn't as engaged in the story overall. The lovey-dovey stuff between the one police officer, Chris, and his girlfriend, who happens to also be his partner's mom. And I mean, when you talk about it, it sounds ridiculous. And if you think about it in any kind of logical sense, the whole setup is ridiculous, obviously. But it's entertaining, and it's not meant to be realistic at that level, right? So So yeah, I mean, my favorite character is the Polish guy. Uh, he's just so reticent and just so like matter of fact. I don't know, but yeah, it was still good. I still enjoyed it. I will read the other two. Probably, I'm trying to like kind of. There's 4 in the series now, and I'm just kind of trying to space them out a little bit, so that I'm not. If I read too much of the same thing, like if I read a whole series in one go, I tend to like get sick of it, and I want to continue to enjoy these. So I'm kind of in the same way you enjoy candy. If you eat too much at once, you get a stomach ache. But if you eat a little something now, a little something, later, it'll be better overall. So I will read like I said, I think there are 2 more. I'm sure they come out like once a year, so I'm sure there's another one on the way if it isn't already out. But I am enjoying the series. I really do enjoy the characters. And yeah, even though this plot wasn't entirely my cup of tea, I still overall enjoyed the book. The other book I read, Moonflower Murders by Anthony Horowitz, that's a little more complicated for me because I get a bad vibe from Anthony Horowitz. I don't know really anything about him, and part of it might just be my personal experience. I tried to read House of Silk. I picked that book up so many times and never made it past about 30 pages because I just could not get into it. I did not like the voice that he was using, and being a Holmes fan myself, and I don't know, it didn't meet my standard of what I expect a tone of, especially for something that I think was like the Doyle estate had given the green. I don't know, but anyway, I didn't care for it. I did read Moriarty. I didn't think it was as clever as the author seemed to think he was being, and I think that's where I'm getting this vibe from Horowitz that he thinks he's really clever and he's maybe not as clever as he thinks he is. Because I really, really, really liked Magpie Murders. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't a 5-star read for me, but I do remember really liking it. And that one has like a book within a book. So here's the thing. The main character, Susan Ryeland, is an editor. And, of course, me having worked as an editor and now as an author, things set in the publishing world and a mystery, I'm all over that. So I enjoyed it. And like in in Magpie Murders, she has this author, Alan Conway, who writes a series of books about a detective named Atticus Bund. And he's kind of a German Hercule Poirot set in the 50s. I mean, that kind of encapsulates the tone. And what you get in Magpie Murders is Alan Conway's last Atticus Bund book, The Magpie Murders, as a book within a book, because the manuscript has the clues to solve the overall mystery, right? Okay, so clever for the time. That has now become something of a gimmick, though, because like, as I've mentioned several times, I've been trying to read Devil House, and it has this book within the book, and that just brought me to a screeching halt because I'm like, I don't care about this book. I'm here for the other book. And so I got to Moonflower Murders, and it's, again, the clues are in one of the Atticus Bund books. So like your readings, because now Susan is no longer an editor. She's running a hotel on Crete with her longtime boyfriend / pseudo fiance, Andreas, and she gets roped into solving a mystery because these hotel owners, their daughter who helps them run the hotel, read the Atticus Bund book, Atticus Bund Takes the Case, and realized that a murder that happened at their hotel 8 years ago, they got the wrong guy. Like, the clues were in the book because Alan Conway had visited this hotel after the murder, had figured out what had actually happened, and had planted the clues of the truth in the book he wrote that was loosely based on the murder that happened at the hotel. So Moonflower Murders is the name of... It's not the name of the book. It's the name of... Atticus Bund Takes the Case is the name of the Atticus Bund book, but Moonflower is the name of the hotel. No, that's the name of the actual hotel. Okay, it's confusing. It's very confusing. Maybe, was it? I don't know. In any case, it doesn't matter. The name of the hotel doesn't matter. Even, see, it's just, so you're reading Susan going to this hotel, talking to people, and then she picks up and rereads the Atticus Pund book that supposedly has the clues in it. And so you have to reread it with her. It's like a 240-page book in a book. And again, it's not as clever. And I don't know if we're supposed to think Alan Conway just isn't as clever as he thought he was, or if it's Horowitz who's not as clever as he thinks he is. Like, I honestly can't tell how deliberate some of this is, because the writing is not great in the Atticus Pund, but also in the Susan Ryeland stuff, because the voice is not distinctly different. Reading the Atticus Pund book is not like, oh, I feel like I'm reading somebody else's writing. I feel like I'm reading more of Susan Ryeland. And you could say, oh, but she's the editor, so of course some of her voice slips in. But then she talks about how Alan never let her really edit his work. Like, she would bring stuff up and he'd be like, no, it has to stay the way it is. So I can't really trust that I'm supposed to believe Susan's voice is in the Atticus Pund books, because the author was, very stingy with his willingness to make edits. So it's not well written. And I don't know how deliberate that is tonally, voice-wise. I had a lot of it figured out very early on. And it's super homophobic, I have to say, this book, and in the first book too. So Alan Conway, the character, he's dead, but he was gay, and he's depicted as kind of a terrible person. And then you meet his long-term love interest, James Taylor, not the singer, but and he's kind of awful. And then, like, basically all the gay people in the book are terrible. that's what it boils down to, right? Okay. And and there's a lot of the Seinfeld, not that there's anything wrong with that, like, oh, I don't mind that he's gay, but he's also all these other things that are awful. And there's no, like, just good rep, like, of an average gay person who is not terrible. So that it's noticeable. Let's say it's noticeable to me that was something that was happening in the book. Sorry, downsides of having everybody home for a week on vacation is that there's a lot of incidental noise. In any case, Horowitz doesn't do a good job of hiding his personal feelings about the publishing industry and the way things are run and things like that. Like, I remember thinking just like his thoughts and feelings were just all over this book like a bad criminal's fingerprints, you know what I mean? And so that was a bit distracting. There is, at the end of the book, this really ridiculous letter from the, I won't spoil it, but from the, the murderer. And it's just this long, whinging kind of ongoing, overdramatic, melodramatic letter explaining everything before, I guess this is a small spoiler, before he throws himself under a train so he doesn't have to get arrested. But in any case, it's it's just really, it was really kind of anticlimactic and dumb. Benoit Blanc would say, it's just dumb. And yeah, none of the characters felt super well developed. They didn't feel well-rounded or distinct in very many ways. There was this whole side plot where Susan visits her sister a couple of times, and that didn't seem to go anywhere or have any kind of relevance or impact. It's just some additional, I guess, family drama. There's also some drama between Susan and Andreas, and her trying to decide if she wants to stay with him and wants to keep running a hotel in Crete, or there's all these little things that I guess ostensibly are designed to create a wider world, but the book was already 600 pages and it didn't need anything additional. You're already reading a book within a book and all this other stuff, and you're here for the mystery, and you don't need the women's fiction touches that were kind of happening, that felt kind of thrown in and not super well developed, just there for the sake of being there. I don't know. Overall, I gave it 3 stars on Goodreads, and I put in my comment 3.5, but the more I think about it, it's probably really just a 3. It was fine. It was entertaining, but there were too many flaws to distract me from fully enjoying it. Whereas with The Man Who Died Twice, it was really just that storyline didn't really appeal to me. This book, Moonflower Murders, has actual flaws that bothered me. There were even to the point where there were places where I was like, this needed another proofread. There's places where there's some italicizing that shouldn't be there, and some incorrect, the editor in me noticed, right? So in any case, I gave it, it's probably more like a 3. It's probably not even a 3.5. Because the more I think and talk about it, the less enthusiastic I am about it. Would I read another Susan Ryeland book? Sure. Third time's a charm. When there's one I really like and one I don't like as much, then, there's going to be a tiebreaker where, was the first one just really good? Was the second one a sophomore slump? Am I going to read anything else by Anthony Horowitz? Probably not. I know he's got some other stuff, some other series, but right now I'm rereading Cat Among the Pigeons, which is a Hercule Poirot, and I read all the Hercule Poirot when I was in my early teens, and I frequently pick one up to reread, maybe about one a year. And so this year it's Cat Among the Pigeons, because I haven't read that one in a very long time. So I just started it last night, and that'll be the next one we talk about. And I need to read 3 more books to meet my yearly goal. I think I can do that between now and the end of the year. That is the plan anyway. And until next time, if you've read the Thursday Murder Club books, particularly The Man Who Died Twice, if you read Moonflower Murders or any other Anthony Horowitz, let me know in the comments your thoughts and feelings, because I am curious to see if anybody else just picks up on some of these little things. It's just a vibe I get. I don't know. It could just be me. Could just be me. That's not out of the question. But in any case, until next time, take care.